Thank you. Thank you very, very much for such a warm welcome, not only for myself, but for my colleagues as well. It's truly a privilege and a pleasure to be here. And, let me just first of all say that I'm truly, truly impressed with the caliber of this event. It's not easy pulling together even a day-long program, but when you see the week-long program, the number of panelists and speakers and the topics that are being discussed, this is something that we, Canada, want to be part of, and we're very, very happy to be here. I also wanted just to do a little shout out to Canadians that are here from Canada. There's about 50 delegates. There we go. I look forward to meeting you after, but great that you're here, and I really wanted to welcome you all to India, so thanks for taking the time, and I'm really pleased to have that extra special opportunity to represent you guys here as well, so thank you. When we had an opportunity, and we met months ago, and it's hard to believe that this is already here, we had an opportunity to engage and be part of this. And for me and for us as a Government of Canada presence here in India, this is exactly the type of thing that we want to be associated with. And what truly is impressive is that you have delegates from 110 countries. And you're talking about leadership, you're talking about global issues, not women's issues. And I think that's really, really important. And this is why this is something that really means a lot to us and to our government. The topic today is, what are some of the challenges confronting us as a country, Canada, or whatever it may be? And it's really difficult to narrow down a few topics, but the fact that we have several of us here, I think it'll flush out a various range of different ideas and thoughts. But let me just say a couple of things. First of all, just a little bit of context situating Canada. We have a relatively new government in Canada. It's about 6 months now in power. Our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who really doesn't need much of an introduction, I think people know who he is, has really set a vision for a new narrative, if you will, and you'd use that terminology, and I think that's really good terminology. And what drives our foreign policy are a number of different elements, leveraging and valuing diversity in all forms, whether it's multiculturalism, linguistic diversity, religious diversity, and Canada itself is a makeup of that diversity. And of course, that includes gender equality and diversity issues as well. Multilateralism, a renewed sort of focus on multilateral institutions is something we're engaged quite actively now with the United Nations and other organizations where we can work together as partners around the world. We're focused significantly on global issues such as climate change, which is a significant pillar of our foreign policy going forward. And we're also focused on tackling global security issues, which are common challenges for a number of countries and a number of my colleagues up here as well. And if I was just to elaborate on maybe 2 or 3 issues just in the context of issues that face Canada, but they also happen to be issues that are very relevant here in India and globally across the world through multilateral and other institutions that I've just touched on. Let me just speak to 3 things. One, I'll speak a little bit about climate change. This is really, really important for us, and I think Canada is stepping up to do a lot more than what we have done in the past. Shortly after our Prime Minister was sworn in early November, there was the COP21 conference in Paris. It was his first global event initiative. And we made significant commitments. We also announced $2.65 billion over the next 5 years to help developing countries tackle the issues of climate change. This is something that we're faced with right now, not only in Canada, but how we can contribute to playing a role around the world. And one of the things we're doing right now is saying, okay, above and beyond the commitments that we've made, how can we do some things, Canada, India-wise, where we can work together? And of course, things like renewable energy, clean energy, for the future of India, for what Canada has to offer in terms of technology, capacity, is an area that we're focusing on quite a bit. Capacity building, policy collaboration, research collaboration around science and technology around climate change is an area that is significant for us. It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity for do some things that we haven't done before. So that's one that I would sort of touch on that I think is not only relevant and top of mind in Canada right now and for our government around the world where we engage in terms of foreign policy, but I think relevant here in India and other countries as well. The second area I'll just touch on is under the broader rubric of international trade and trade and investment. We focus a lot of our attention here in India, Canada that is, on our trade and investment relationship. Just to situate this, Canada's embassy here in Delhi is Canada's largest in the world. Our footprint around India we have our High Commission in Delhi. We have 3 consulates general and 4 trade offices around India. We have 8 offices all over India, and we have almost 600 employees around India. And a lot of that focus has been on trade and investment. And if you look at the fact that we have been trading quite actively with the United States for many years. In fact, I think the latest numbers I saw, we trade about $2 billion a day with the US, actually more than that. It's about $880 billion in two-way trade between Canada and the US. But what we're trying to really do hard is diversify that trade. So with India, in 2014, our two-way trade was $6.4 billion. In 2015, it was $8.2 billion, a 32% increase in two-way trade. Record exports from Canada to India, record two-way investment between Canada and India, and the trading relationship is thriving, continues to grow. But there are 3 things to sort of touch on there. First of all, for us, it's about diversifying the trade relationship. Secondly, it's to not lose sight of why we're doing this. It's for job creation, economic prosperity, both in Canada and in India. And it's really important to keep the eye on the ball and not just focus on the numbers, but the reasons why we're focusing our energies in this area. And then third, as you mentioned, globalization it presents opportunities but also challenges. And breaking down barriers to trade, facilitating investment, facilitating trade, I think is something that we do really well, and we want to do more of that. Because I think it provides mutual benefit, it helps bring people out of poverty, creates jobs, creates revenues for organizations and governments, and that's something that has longer term benefit as well. And touching on that, I just want to bring it back, we focus quite a bit of our energies on supporting not only traditional trade, but also supporting entrepreneurship, innovation through science and technology. And we have programs in Canada for women entrepreneurs and how we can help them export to new markets. We have a business Women in International Trade program as well. And there was a really good study, I think it was just a few weeks ago, and I can't remember who published this, but it was something along the lines of if the percentage of women entrepreneurs actually increases marginally, the impact on GDP is into the billions on a correlation percentage basis. And so I think, that's not to say that that's where we should only focus our energies, but we have to keep that in mind, that there are reasons why these things matter above and beyond just the numbers. And third and finally, we're also focused quite a bit on social issues, social challenges, where we want to do more through our foreign policy around the world. That's human rights, pluralism, peaceful pluralism, but of course violence against women, early forced marriage, and gender equality. Our Prime Minister made a point of saying before he was elected that he would have 50% women in his cabinet. We have 30 cabinet ministers, of which 15 of them are women, and it was very difficult to choose because we had a lot of really talented candidates to choose from. And I think that whole notion of focusing more on some of these social issues, whether it's gender, whether it's violence against women, whether it's healthcare, education, whatever it might be, we, I think, have it really great in Canada, but we're not perfect. We can do more in Canada, but we can certainly share the Canadian experience around the world, including here in India. And that's why, when you talk of global challenges, just as much as they may be opportunities, those are a few things I would highlight from the Canadian perspective, and I'll leave it at that. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Congratulations on a successful conference.